That's right. That's right. So we'll see you tomorrow, right?
All right.
So
Yes,
safe
looking forward to
travels.
it. Thank you very much. Can't wait to be
All
with
right.
everybody.
All right. So we get started?
Sounds great.
Okay. Greetings, fellow Federationists. Today is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, and this is Presidential Release number 525, live from the National Federation of the Blind Jernigan Institute. It is great to be back together again, and we are exactly 4 months away, 4 months to the day, until we start our 2023 National Convention. So if you haven't made your plans yet, get them going, and I have a lot of work to do between now and then, so I need to get my plans going too. The spring is quickly upon us, although it doesn't feel that way in a lot of parts of the country right now, but the spring conventions will be starting this weekend with Alabama and Massachusetts getting together, and I'm anticipating going to the Nebraska convention later this month, a number of great affiliate conventions and other federation activities coming up during the months leading up to our national convention. I'm going to dive right in because I have a lot of things to talk about, some of them literally just happening today. A little update on our advocacy and policy work. You know, we continue to see the great benefits from having our in-person Washington seminar. So many connections that were made because we were in person. We did a great job on virtual, but the in-person experience has really accelerated our work, and especially I want to talk about the Medical Device Non-Visual Accessibility Act. As you know, this bill will require all Class 2 and Class 3 medical devices with a digital interface to be accessible to blind people. This bill will go into effect 3 years after it is signed into law, and it will make a great difference in allowing blind Americans to safely and independently operate medical equipment and manage and monitor their own health care in the home setting. Just today, March 1st, it was reintroduced into Congress, into the House of Representatives, by Representative Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. Jan Schakowsky has been a longtime friend of the Federation, one of my favorite moments of our virtual conventions. Jan Schakowsky dropping into our Illinois delegation there during our virtual convention. This bill is so new it doesn't even have a number yet. So all I can tell you is it's been introduced, but this is really impressive to me. Not only has it been introduced by Representative Schakowsky, it has 32 original co-sponsors. That's huge, and that's thanks to the work of all of you, and especially the work that we did in our Washington seminar. So good start. You know, 32 is a good number, but we got to get a lot more, so keep pushing on that bill as well as our other legislative initiatives. Now, it's been a busy week, though, because earlier this week we got some movement on the Transformation to Competitive Integrated Employment Act. This is a bill that we have been pushing for a number of years to fully eliminate the federal allowance of the payment of sub-minimum wages to people with disabilities. We're doing great work at getting this eliminated state by state, but we want it out of federal law. And we have gotten it introduced in the Senate on Monday of this week, introduced by Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. The lead co-sponsor on this bill is Senator Steve Daines of Montana. The bill number is S533. We also have gotten the bill introduced into the House of Representatives yesterday. So we now have 3 days in a row where the Federation's got bills introduced. The introduction of the bill in the House of Representatives, our lead co-sponsor there is Kathy McMorris Rogers of Washington, and the bill number is H.R. 1263. So congratulations to the Federationists across the country of doing great work to get these bills introduced. And we know that our other legislative priorities are going to continue to roll forward. So keep the pressure on members of Congress, and thank those who have gotten on board with these bills. I don't know what our governmental affairs folks are going to do tomorrow to get introduced into Congress, but I'm sure we'll talk about it on the next release. We've talked before about our efforts to support Joe Orozco, who is a member of the Federation from Virginia and a blind analyst at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Joe has faced a lack of equal access to workplace technologies that have held him back from advancing in his role at the agency. Joe's experience is very similar to that of many blind employees across the government whose agencies fail to provide them with equal access to workplace technologies they need to be successful, and those technologies are required to be fully accessible under Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. We, with our support of Joe, won a major victory in the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on February 17, 2023. The appellate court ruled that a lower court was wrong when it dismissed Joe's case. This is a huge victory for blind people, and the decision notes that while the lower court said that Joe's case should be dismissed, that there wasn't a right of federal employees to bring a private right of action against their agencies, the appellate court said, you're wrong. The law says you do have that right. And this is really significant for blind federal employees. It's a great victory. Now, the case continues for Joe Orozco, and we have to continue to stand with him to get access to the technologies in his agency. But going forward, this victory on behalf of blind people will allow us to push harder on government agencies in terms of implementation and holding them accountable for Section 508 violations. And of course, this doesn't just impact blind federal employees, it also impacts really all of us who use technologies that are public-facing of the government. So this is a tremendous win, and it could really only happen because of the collective action of the National Federation of the Blind. Now, the agencies, I'm sure the government agencies hope we're going away, but we're not. We're going to keep the pressure on, and we're doing a great job of that. We've been raising Section 508 concerns for quite a while, and other parts of the government are with us and listening. Recently, last month, the United States Department of Justice released a report detailing the accessibility of federal electronic and information technologies. The report shows, this will be no surprise to members of the Federation, the report shows that 1 in 10 public-facing websites at major federal departments and agencies are inaccessible. It also shows that approximately 60% of internal websites at major federal departments and agencies are inaccessible. We will continue to push on Department of Justice and other agencies to compel government agencies to uphold their responsibilities. And along the way in this journey, we will demand better data and more accountability in really measuring the progress that these agencies are making. But congratulations to the Federation and our work together to support our blind federal employees to get equal access. Now, this is the time of year, in fact, the very day when we start to talk about registration for our 2023 National Convention, which will happen in Houston, Texas from July 1 to July 6. Note that Norma Crosby's here in the audience today, our host for the 2023 convention. And we're really looking forward to being at the Hilton Americas Houston, which is a great property. It was recently there, and I know they're very much looking forward to having us. The rates at our headquarters hotel are $119 a night for singles, doubles, triples, and quads, plus various taxes that they put on top of it. Can't avoid that. The Hilton has been taking reservations for a number of months, and despite the rumors, there still are rooms available at the Hilton. So if they tell you there's not a room available, keep pushing them. But they're not going to be available forever. So I encourage you to get your reservations in soon. You can get the hotel address and the phone number and all those details at our convention page, nfb.org/convention. I've given it on the release before, so I'm not going to give it again. But I will also mention that we have an overflow hotel, which is the Marriott, which is just half a mile away or so. It's not really that far. It's an easy walk if you take the indoor route through the convention center. The Marriott has many of the same amenities, except that it does tout that it has the largest lazy river in Texas. And it happens that the lazy river is in the shape of Texas. I should say the Hilton's a great property. It has many amenities. The Federationists will find the hotel very simple to navigate. It's all the meeting room spaces are stacked on top of each other. A number of restaurants. There is a Starbucks, and there is so much food and entertainment around the hotel. You're gonna just love the space, and especially the hospitality that'll be provided by the NFB of Texas. Now, registration is open. So you want to go to nfb.org/register to register. You have until June 1 to register online. After that, you'll have to register at the convention. Registration is $25 per person. It's a bargain. It's been at $25 for a number of years. The banquet cost this year is $70. The online registration closes on June 1, as I say. And the prices of each of those will go up $5 when you get to convention. So it pays to get your registration in early. You also don't have to wait in the registration line and things like that. So I would encourage you to get your registration in. If you're looking to fill out our registration form in Spanish, we do have it available, but it's slightly delayed, so not quite ready for this release, but certainly it will be ready in the coming days. And I want to remind you also that when you register online, you can make certain requests for support, such as interpreters, if you need interpreters because of your hearing, or things like that. Now, there are certain things that you don't have to request. For example, there'll be Braille agendas. You can count on that at the convention and that sort of thing. Now, some of you out there maybe haven't been to our national convention, and you want the experience, but you need a little support. Well, fortunately, the Kenneth Jernigan Fund of the National Federation of the Blind provides convention scholarships to first-timers, and that program is again available this year. You do have to apply, and some of you may have participated last year in our virtual convention experience or in our virtual conventions before that. That's okay. You're still eligible to receive a Kenneth Jernigan First Time Convention Scholarship. I, in particular, love engaging with the first-timers at the convention. They bring a lot of energy, enthusiasm. Some of them are scared to death, but it's really great to observe their growth during the week. Although my first convention was more than 25 ago now, I still remember the experience, and I still have very fond memories of those federationists that took me under their wing at my first convention when I had no clue what was going on. So if you are a first-timer at the convention, please make sure to come by the presidential suite or stop me in the hall. I would love to meet you. Now, applications are due for the Kenneth Jernigan Scholarships by April 15th, and you do have to reach out to the president of your state affiliate of the Federation to get a recommendation letter. You can get more information and find the form to fill out, including all the details that are needed at our convention page, nfb.org/convention. And I refer you to that page frequently, as it will be updated with all sorts of information. But please, if you haven't yet been to the convention, it is the highlight of the year. It's when we bring the most people, energy, imagination together to talk about our concerns, our dreams for the future, and make things happen. There will be some new and exciting things at the convention, so we would love for you to be there. And as I say, I'm confident the hospitality is going to be great. Now, if you're getting ready for the convention, you may want some new NFB apparel, and our Independence Market group would like you to know that we have new apparel available in the Independence Market for you to call and order. We have cotton polo shirts in black, red, or blue. Ladies sizes small to 3X go for $24 a piece, and men's sizes small to 4X sell for $24 a piece. We also have windbreaker jackets in black, red, and green. Those are 3 colors, not one. So black, red, or green. Ladies' sizes small to 3X are $30, and men's sizes small to 4X are $30. And it's still cold out there, and in many places you can get an NFB skull cap in black to keep your head warm. $20. You can get them now at the Independence Market, and you'll want some of them. You probably won't need the skull cap in Texas, but you know, hotels can get cold, so you may want it there. You know, and if you want to make a fashion statement, I say go for it. You know, the more NFB logos, the better. So our advocacy and policy team has sent me a note here regarding Medicaid. The federal government is giving states up to 1 year to determine whether their residents are still eligible to receive Medicaid. Over the next year, states are going to be requiring individuals to verify their personal information in order to continue to receive Medicaid support. This includes contact information such as income and household size. If you are receiving Medicaid, our team strongly advises you to contact your state's Medicaid office to verify your address so that you will continue to be eligible and to receive updates from the program. Additionally, please make sure that you pay attention to any correspondence from your state's Medicaid agency. Of course, we want to bring this to your attention because for most states, they're probably sending it to you as an unidentified print object, and we don't want you to miss it and get dropped from the Medicaid rules. So we're encouraging you to be proactive, contact your state agency and get that done. Our team will continue to monitor the situation, and if we have received more information, certainly pass it along. Also, right now, there's a lot of discussion again about the accessibility of U.S. currency. The United States Treasury is currently redesigning the $20 bill to include a portrait of Harriet Tubman. And we're monitoring this effort at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. According to a federal court decision from 2008, any new currency redesign must include accessibility features to accommodate individuals who are blind. You may recall, or you may not, that the Federation has had a number of resolutions over the years about the accessibility of money. Our last resolution on this topic was from 2008, Resolution 2008-08, as a matter of fact. And in that resolution, our resolves in summary were to urge Treasury to consider adding more meaningful features to money during a redesign process and to include significant input from blind constituents in that process. So this is something we're continuing to monitor. I thought it was important to share with you that the Federation has a long-standing set of resolutions urging that when money is redesigned, that the government consider innovative ways to put tactile features into it. Our biggest problem has been not having enough money, of course. And with the pandemic, people are using less paper currency than they once were, but we still urge the government to find new innovative ways to make accessibility a priority. Now, we're not just doing legislative work, though. We're also doing a lot of education work, and we are now in the period of time where we are heavily recruiting for our summer Braille Enrichment for Literacy and Learning Academies. We actually, when I wrote these notes, we had many fewer programs than we have. So I'm going to give you the updated statistics. We currently have 19 in-person programs in 16 of our state affiliates. So lots of options out there for families to get their kids into our Braille literacy programs. I'm not going to read you the list because apparently it's changing actually by the hour. So you can find the up-to-date information at nfb.org/bell, B-E-L-L. But don't forget also that we offer our Bell in-home edition for those that might not have a program near them, or for some reason can't attend an in-person program, we have learned a lot over the last few years about offering Braille enrichment virtually, and so it's a good option. But the spots are going to fill fast in all these programs, so please promote this to people in your area, and even if there's not a Bell Academy in your affiliate, there's one nearby that you can get to. On the December presidential release, I talked with you about the launch of a new program with the rideshare company Lyft, which allows you to round up your ride to the nearest dollar and donate those pennies to the National Federation of the Blind. I wanted to remind you again that you should continue to reach out to family members, friends, really anyone who will listen to you and feel compelled to do what you ask them to do. If they use Lyft, ask them to hit the menu option, go to donate, and then to select the National Federation of the Blind. It's really that easy. And then next time they take a ride, their Lyft will be rounded up, and those pennies will come to the National Federation of the Blind. Lyft passes on 100% of those donated funds to us. We've actually gotten our first donation from the Lift Up program. It's a great way to encourage people to give. It's easy, and it's an easy ask for people that you know that use Lyft. So continue to promote that heavily. It's not going away, and once they hit the button, they probably will never think about it again, but it'll make a big difference to us. I do want to real quickly encourage you also to get on the PAC plan. This is our pre-authorized contribution program. It's a way to give monthly to the Federation. It would be great to come into our 2023 National Convention at a record high on the PAC program, especially to honor our friend and colleague Scott Labar, who was the chairman of the program for many years. You can go to nfb.org/PAC to learn more about the program. I do have a number of Federation family notes for you here on this release. I regret to share with you the passing of Lloyd Matthews on February 12, 2023. Lloyd was a longtime member and big-time promoter of the Federation from our Tampa Bay chapter. Very sad to bring you news from our Illinois Federation family of the passing of Teresa Meyer, a longtime member of our Chicago chapter who passed away after a long battle, a long illness on February 26th, just a couple of days ago. Teresa is the wife of David Meyer, who is a longtime Federationist, has held many leadership positions. Teresa was not only a support to Dave in his leadership work in the Federation, but was an active member in our Chicago chapter and helped out in many places herself. She was a true soulmate for Dave. I urge you to keep Dave and our Federation family in Illinois in your thoughts and prayers upon Teresa's passing. Also, really regret having to share with you the passing of Carl Jacobson, who passed away on Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Carl, as I'm sure many of you know, served as president of the National Federation of the Blind of New York for more than 20 years, starting in 1997. He served on our national board. He traveled to many affiliates, spreading the word of the Federation. He was a longtime member of our National Scholarship Committee, where he mentored many Federationists. I was honored to have the opportunity to go to his funeral and hear the wonderful testimonies from so many people about the impact that Carl had on their lives and their commitment to carrying his legacy forward. Carl leaves behind his beloved wife, Mindy, who is a longtime leader in the movement herself, as well as his children and several grandchildren and so many people who he inspired and loved. I count myself as fortunate to have had the opportunity to be mentored by Carl, especially as a board member. When I came onto the board, he was a great support and mentor to me. So I encourage you to keep the Jacobson family and friends in your thoughts and prayers, as well as those who I might not have received information about. Pam, I think that's what I have for the moment. I'm sending it back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, President Riccobono. So many exciting things happening in our organization. And just a note, as someone who grew up in Buffalo, Carl is such a tremendous positive force in my life too. So definitely grateful for his mentorship and sending support.
Miss that great voice, Carl Jacobs.
Exactly. You could find Carl anywhere.
That's right. That's right.
So I want to thank everyone for submitting such great questions. Just a reminder, you can still send questions tonight through our Q&A feature available on the web or the app version. Also, you can email Chris Danielson at cdanielson@nfb.org if you have questions. And so in celebration of Carl, I think it's fitting, President Riccobono, we have a question from a live audience member from the great state of New York.
Okay.
So just a little, Carl
Are we giving that person a microphone?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We are ready. And so I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
So this is actually a question that my son has asked me. And then one day he said, what about really important people like President Riccobono? And I said, maybe we can ask him. And he said, when you were a kid, maybe even a really little kid, when did you first realize you were blind? And when did you first realize that that was quote unquote bad, according to some people out there in the big wide world outside your family?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. What is your son's name? Jeremy, okay. Hopefully Jeremy's listening. So Jeremy, great question. It's an interesting question. I mean, I really never knew I was a blind person. I certainly didn't identify as blind. I knew I couldn't see so well. And, I really learned to fake it. When did I figure out it wasn't really cool? Well, I mean, I guess I got those messages all the way along as a child. Not necessarily from my family, but just the incidental messages that you get. And, because vision is such a focus, I very quickly began figuring out that it was really important to people that I saw things. And so they would ask if I saw things, and I'd say, yeah, I see that. And I didn't get challenged on it, so it seemed to make people happy if I saw things. But I would say, it was really in middle school that I figured out that, I wasn't going to be able to see things, and it was easier for me to hang out in the back of the room and fly under the radar in school rather than going right up to the board and trying to see what I needed to. And no one ever told me Braille was a thing. And so I really learned to fake it. I was an expert at faking it. And I regret that was my experience, and I would encourage anybody out there who is faking it. I'm sure there are people listening right now who are faking it. There's a really better way to do it. There's a really better way to do it. And the first thing for me was recognizing that it is respectable to be blind, that the fact that I couldn't see so well didn't have to define what I did, who I was, and how I went about life. And you know, when I found the Federation, that burden was lifted from me. I didn't have to fake it anymore. I didn't have to put my energy into pretending that I could do something that I couldn't do, which was see, and I could put my energy into focusing on the things that I could do. And you know what I've found out now over 20 years is that, in fact, I don't know where the limits are for the things that I can do. And the Federation has helped to push me into all sorts of things that I didn't know that I could do. Didn't know what was possible. I used to think the idea of blind people driving cars was a crazy thing until the Federation pushed me to go out and figure out how to build a technology that would allow a blind person to drive a car. So great question. And for those of you out there who are still trying to fake it, I would encourage you to open your heart to the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind. I think you'll find that there's something more powerful there for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Heather and Jeremy. And our next question, President Riccobono, we have a question about how the National Federation of the Blind makes decisions about which lawsuits to engage in, which legal cases to take on, and how often do we actually engage in lawsuits against employers who are discriminating against blind people?
Well, how do we make decisions about lawsuits? Well, it's a complicated question. But there are a lot of cases of discrimination out there. And there are just way too many for us to bring to litigation in the courts. Litigation is slow, it's expensive, it has a degree of risk to it because you don't want to make a bad ruling in the courts if a judge who doesn't understand blindness makes a bad ruling that's very harmful and can do more damage almost than a good ruling can help us. So litigation is really the last resort for us, especially in the employment space, because employment discrimination cases are very, very, very difficult to win for all sorts of reasons I won't go into here, but it's an area of the law that is very tricky. So when we look at, as an organization, what cases to take, well, the first thing is we can't take all the cases, so we try to empower our members with the knowledge and resources to be your best own advocate, and to really push using the advocacy tools that we can give you and train you on the law so that everybody can be their own best advocate. But we do have some strategic areas that are a focus for us. Those strategic priorities in the legal area we look at every year, and the goal is to try to find cases that will expand the law from where it is today, and cases that will impact more than one blind person. So what's a good example? Well, during the pandemic, we worked to file a concern with the Social Security Administration because they were still requiring people with disabilities who wanted to apply for benefits to actually provide a physical signature. Now, in other parts of their program, they'll accept an electronic verification of your identity, but they, for disability, wanted an actual physical wet ink signature. Well, for blind people, but for other people with disabilities, this is actually a barrier. And if we get Social Security to do something about that, it impacts more than just one person. It impacts and improves conditions for all people who face that barrier. So we look for those kind of cases. And employment cases are very difficult in that regard. But since I mentioned it earlier, right, Joe Orozco's 508 complaint, very individual case, but because we brought it to suit and because we've gotten a good ruling, it sets a very important precedent for all blind people. The other thing is, when we think about who we're going to support in a case, we want to make sure that the individual that we're going to bring a case on behalf of really is in it for all blind people. A key strategy that some people use, especially in employment cases, is, hey, here's a little money. We'll give you some money to go away. And, it's tempting if you're a blind person who's been discriminated against to take the money and run, right? Because it's hard going through the discrimination, and then standing up to be a plaintiff is not an easy thing to do. We're pretty careful that we want to bring cases where people like Joe Orozco are looking for their own relief, but they're also in it for the group. They're not going to run the other way because someone waved a couple $1,000s at them. That people that are in it to help really change the landscape of accessibility and equal access and our rights. That's a very short answer to a complicated question. The challenge we face is we cannot take all of the cases that come our way, and there are some places where the courts just are not friendly to blind people, to our point of view, to what the laws say. And so it's a tricky analysis. Sometimes we find an issue that we want to push on, and then we have to find the right circuit of the court that we can bring it in, because we're more likely to get a judge and or jury that is going to understand our issues better. So complicated set of circumstances, but let me just demystify this for you. Although we bring very successful lawsuits, it is only one factor in our strategy. We use all of the tools at our disposal, and suing people is the slowest, the most frustrating, and sometimes the most unsatisfactory, because we can't get everything we want. So people love to paint us with the brush of being sue happy, but it's actually not the case. And we celebrate the victories we get in the courts because we do look for these systemic opportunities. So when we have wins like Orozco, or take the Target lawsuit from years ago, I mean, we go after cases that are going to make a big impact in society.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, President Riccobono. Now we've got a few questions about convention. Everyone's really excited. I know Roland and I already registered, so we're counting down the days. We have a question about, have any decisions been made yet concerning COVID protocols?
Well, that's a great question. And I should have mentioned it earlier. So the national board, over the last few years, has considered carefully the public health situation, and we continue to recognize that we, as members of the organization, all have a personal responsibility as part of this community, as family members in this federation, to do what we can to keep ourselves and those around us safe in the environments that we're in together. Recognizing that the public health emergency is coming to an end, that we have all learned about the techniques that we can personally use to keep ourselves and those around us safe, and our belief that we all have the capacity to make the right choices and do what's right for the people around us. The board has elected at this time not to put any special protocols into place for the 2023 convention. We certainly do want everybody to recognize that we have members of our Federation family who are higher risk for contracting something like COVID. And we would encourage everybody to be smart. If you're having symptoms, to make the personal choice to isolate. If you're having severe enough symptoms, make the really hard choice to stay home from the convention. To keep yourself safe, but also to keep others safe at the convention. At last year's convention, we had a similar theme of encouraging people to recognize that we're a family and we want to do what we can to take care of other members of the family. At this time, though, we don't anticipate employing the same level of testing and protocols that we needed to in 2022 based on the public health information and where it's going. Now, caveat, that could change. As we've learned over the last 2 years, it could change day to day. So that's our thinking right now. As we get closer into May, that analysis may change, but we believe that Federation members will do the right thing to take care of themselves and their fellow Federation family members.
Okay, great. And another question along the lines of convention is that wondering, what is the significance, or is there any kind of significance that our conventions are generally held around the 4th of July?
Free fireworks. What? No. Well, it's kind of simple. Well, it's a good time of year to get together. We, of course, have a focus at our conventions around families, and it tends to be a time when school's out of session. But most importantly, we continue to negotiate for our convention, trying to get the best potential rates we can to make convention as affordable as possible to as many people as possible. And so that time period around the 4th of July, and actually when we negotiate, we give a pretty broad window of time, but the 4th of July time tends to be a time when there's a little better availability in hotels. We can get better rates. And so that really is our priority, and that's why it ends up being at that time. Our conventions have been later in the last couple of years. We've had some later conventions. It's always a tricky balance between getting the right price, getting a facility that's big enough for us, getting a time when it's going to be convenient for families. We really have a tight window if we want to continue to draw in parents of blind children, and they have a significant presence at our convention, making sure we can get a convention time when kids are out of school. I mean, if we want to meet, say, in New Orleans in late August, we would probably get a great rate because everybody's already in school, but there's a trade-off there. So all these factors have to be considered, and also our convention is big, and so it limits the places where we can go, especially if we want to get as much of our convention as possible under one roof. I think you're going to love Houston for this reason. It's probably one of the most compact layouts in terms of meeting room spaces and guest rooms that we've had in many, many years.
Okay, great. Along another convention question. This is for someone that's new and is asking, why does the Federation consider National Convention to be the culmination of our year's work and so important to our purpose?
Well, that's a great question. Well, there's a couple of important things to talk about here. First of all, the convention is the governing authority of the Federation. It's the time when our affiliates come together to set policy for the organization, to elect the leaders of the organization. And so We celebrate our progress because obligation to come tell the members what we've gotten done. And we do want to celebrate what we've gotten done, but it's also part of our accountability and transparency. The convention is also the time when we set the priorities for the next year, and we imagine what we want to do in the future, and we get together and debate and about how do we raise expectations for blind people and what's possible, and we hold companies and agencies accountable for not doing right by blind people. But more importantly, it's the time, the most significant, concentrated time when our community comes together. You know, the national convention is the one time when you can be guaranteed that you are in the majority as a blind person. And it's your space. And I like to say, it's normal, right? Our goal is to get the rest of the year, the other 51 weeks of the year, to be as normal as our convention is. Meaning, when you walk around the convention, you don't worry about whether someone's blind or sighted. You don't. I don't. Because, you don't have people grabbing you all the time or, asking you if you know where you're going, things like that. And you can find people who you can share experience with, or who you can talk with about the struggles that you're having as a blind person. And you don't have to throw a cane very far to hit someone that's going to understand, right? So the convention's important for all of those reasons. It's the real shot in the arm that we need. And, our goal, the way I think about it, is we're trying to extend the normality of the convention out to the rest of the year. And there's a lot of scale in what we do. Our exhibit hall. I mean, you don't get a smattering of devices and exhibits like that anywhere else for blind people, and it's all led and directed by blind people. And so you don't have to deal with some of the things that we encounter at other conferences in the blindness field that aren't centered on blind people. So it's important because it's ours, and it's directed by us, it's built by us, and at a real basic level, the most important part is if you spend any time in this community, when you come back to the convention, it feels like home. You're going to find people who you've met at the convention. You're going to befriend new people. You're going to get to share your expertise with people, and you build relationships. I mean, I briefly talked about my first convention. I'm still friends with people who, I only got to know them because they harassed me to buy a candy bar at my first convention, But they're still dear friends, and we share ideas, and, we meet at the convention, maybe only we see each other once or twice a year, but we drop right into what's happening and what's going on. And, that community is really significant, and it only happens because we invest energy in coming together at the convention. That's why I'm really glad that we have these in-person experiences again, because it's at a much different level than, sitting on Zoom and listening to people.
Yeah, so true. I could not agree more. So also, we've got a question. This comes from one of our leadership participants, and this is in relation. We know, President Riccobono, you are already busy thinking about this year's banquet speech, and we're all looking forward to that.
Thanks for reminding me.
Highlight of our convention.
Got to put that on my
And
to-do list.
That's right. So this would individual would like to know what banquet speeches or speech is most significant to you? Not one that you have written, but thinking back to all the speeches, is there one that stands out to you that's personally most meaningful?
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I mean, there's so many great presentations that have been given in the Federation. Um, but the banquet speech that I like the best, really because it clicked with me, um, is Reflecting the Flame, which was Mark Mauer's 1991 banquet speech. Um, and it clicked with me on many levels. Um, and partly it clicked with me because when I came home from my first convention in 1996, at that time you could bring home from the convention a bunch of literature on cassette tape. Can't bring any cassette tapes home anymore. But I came home with a bag full of cassette tapes, and one of them was the 1991 banquet speech. So I was not there for it, but I listened to it. And I absorbed that speech at a particularly critical time in my life, and it resonated with me, many aspects of it. But that's true of a lot of speeches. Um, but that's one that I think has definitely stuck with me. Now, in terms of speeches that I was in person for, um, I think about the 1997 banquet speech. Probably not what I would consider Dr. Jernigan's top speech that he ever gave, but I was there for it. I was in the room, and it was the last banquet speech that he gave. So it has a lot of meaning for me, and it's the concept of the day after civil rights is something I think a lot about. How do we get to that day? Because there still are so many civil rights struggles that we face. It's an interesting concept and tension. So, I mean, I could talk all day about this question. Pam, what's yours?
Oh my gosh. I was sitting here thinking
I only
about,
brought that up because you reminded me I have a banquet speech to write.
no, no, no. Well, I thought, I thought about reflecting if that was my first convention as
You were
well.
there for it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
that's
wasn't there
always
for it.
always really memorable. That's hard. That's hard. But I think, the importance of banquet speeches can't be understated, and we are counting down to hear this year's because we
Okay,
know it's
all
going to
right.
be
That's a new
spectacular.
move on, Pam. This is you're making me nervous. Haven't
Um,
written anything.
no, no worries. And our final question tonight is that relates to any advice you would go. We have a lot of people that are really excited about attending convention, and what advice you'd give to someone who is very new, who doesn't, hasn't, is just now connecting to the Federation. Any advice for their first planning and things they should be doing now to help them get prepared?
Well, what I would say is reach out to your affiliate, your chapter. Find people who are going to the convention, have been to the convention, who and get their commitment to show you the ropes and give you their tips and tricks. Right, that's really the best way to do it. Get someone who will be your navigator, so to speak, in terms of letting you know what to expect, and who will be there when you get into this crowd of thousands of people and you go, oh my God, what am I doing here? Figure out who that can be, and if you don't have someone in your chapter, talk to your affiliate. When in doubt, if you really can't find anybody, call our membership committee. We'll find you someone to get connected with, so that when you show up at the convention, you're not alone. It won't take you long to get into the groove, but there's so many people that have their own convention tips and tricks, survival ideas about what to do. And then what I would say as a first timer is just live in the moment of it and recognize that you don't know what you don't know, and so go with the flow. Which is what I did at my first convention. I had no idea what I was doing or where I was supposed to be, but I followed a lot of people, and I found people who were mentors, and federation members take care of each other, and so you'll be well taken care of. And so build that relationship before you get to the convention so that you have 1 or 2 or 5 people you can call on to help you understand what is banquet exchange anyway. Do I have to bargain? What is this? Lots of people will help you understand that. And then, of course, you should not neglect putting on your calendar showing up at the rookie roundup. Was that a plant question? So I'd mention Rookie Roundup?
Never. Well, thank you so much, President Riccobono, for sharing with us tonight and also sharing so much about your personal journey. I know what an important time it is for all of us to be together as we plan and to celebrate our accomplishments. So thank you again so much, everybody, for being here with us this evening and for submitting great questions. We didn't have a chance to get to every question, but our wonderful communications team will be following up if we weren't able to get to your question this evening. And I want to again thank everyone for being with us tonight. Our next presidential release will be on Tuesday, April 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can contact President Riccobono at 410-659-9314 or via email at officeofthepresident@nfb.org. Thank you again. And I will now turn it over to you, President Riccobono.
Thank you very much, Pam, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Safe travels.
Thanks so much.
This brings me to the end of this presidential release. There are so many great things coming up. As we move through May and into April, we have our Jacobus Tenbrook Disability Law Symposium coming up here at our national office. We have a seminar for our Bell coordinators. We're going to be doing some work with the first beta units along with APH and Humanware of the Monarch. This is the tactile display that we discussed at our national convention. We have some other surprises that I hope we'll be able to announce on the April presidential release. And of course, so many great activities happening in local communities across the Federation. Thank you all for what you do to build our movement every day and for the work that you do to raise expectations for the blind. We are going to have the customary endings, but first let me leave you with Let's Go Build the National Federation of the Blind.
I am Oriana Riccobono, and I have a few riddles for you.
Riddles? You're changing it up. Okay, What are they?
What English word has 3 consecutive double letters?
I don't know. What?
A bookkeeper.
Oh.
And my next riddle is, what has 13 hearts but no lungs or stomach?
I don't know that one either.
A deck of cards.
Hello.
Hello. Do you have a joke for me?
Sure.
Excellent. What is it?
Why can't March get a gold medal?
I don't know, because it's too springy?
Because it always comes in third.
The preceding message was brought to you by Mark Riccobono, President, National Federation of the Blind. Office of the President at nfb.org. 410-659-9314. www.nfb.org. Let's go build the National Federation of the Blind.
So you're blind, you'll be fine. We got good news. You can live the life you want.